Insurance Town. I'm the mayor, he's Sheriff, and the host of this podcast. Can't wait for you guys to jump in here with me and listen to this incredible conversation I had with my friend Becky Monfre. I recently interviewed her on another podcast and just enjoyed the conversation so much that I wanted to bring her into Insurance Town. And so, great conversation. We talked about some personal stuff in the beginning, and then we got into some, insurance related things, and then played a little game at the end. Had a great time. Can't wait for you to hear it. So I will jump out of the way. But before I do, I want to talk to you about my good friends over at Smart Choice. They are the fastest growing agency network, hands down. And they do that they are that way because they truly care. They want to help you write more business. They want to help you by lowering premium thresholds, by raising commissions. Yes, raising commissions, by sharing in contingencies, by just giving back to the industry in so many ways. If you want to learn more, go to smartchoiceagents.com. Also, my good friends over at Manscaped. Manscaped is a phenomenal company that is built just for men, for your body hair grooming, or it could be for your facial hair grooming, nose hairs, ear hairs. Again, as you're going out to conferences and you're out and about doing things, make sure you take care of those nose hairs. Make sure you take care of those eyebrows, the ear hairs, the back hairs that show on the back of your shirt. All of those things, it's very crucial and super important. And I know where, we're coming into the wintertime, a lot of men are thinking, I need to stock up on my body hair and keep all that in so I could. No, it's still something that you need to keep trimmed. You need to keep nice and tidy. Make sure that you look into the Lawnmower 4.0 and check that out and take care of grooming, whether it's your back hair, your chest hair, or your nether regions. Make sure that you're using Manscaped. And you can go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping. That's 20% off plus free shipping. The free shipping is a huge game changer right there alone. And go check that out. Tell them the mayor sent you. When you get there to manscaped.com, scroll down to the bottom when you check out, type in the code MAYOR, MAYOR, and get that 20% off plus free shipping. Guys, I'm going to jump out of the way here and let you check out this awesome conversation with my good friend, Becky Monfre. Becky Monfre, what's happening, sister? How are you?
Good. How are you, Heath?
Oh, man, I'm good. This feels like a little bit of deja vu. We've done this before on another podcast. Now here we are. But this time there's no rules.
Ooh.
We could play.
That's for me.
Perfect. Yeah, that is perfect. I like that. So, okay. I don't even know where you're from. I didn't get to get a lot about you. So anyhow, where are you at right now?
I am in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. Okay. So do you have any ownership in the Packers?
I don't.
They have that thing, don't they, where you can have ownership in the team?
Yes. Yeah. You can buy stock every now and then. They do a little public offering, which I think comes with a certificate, and you can go to a voters meeting. You do not get to vote on the starting lineup or anything like that.
Right.
If that was the case, perhaps I'd jump in. But there's a huge waiting line to become season ticket holders.
Yeah.
I have classmates of mine from high school who are just getting season tickets now, and their parents put them on the waiting list at birth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm kind of regretting I didn't do that for my kids, but.
That is really cool. Yeah. Maybe Amazon Prime days, you could buy stock. Yeah. Here we are just catching up live on a podcast, which is great. But let's go back as far as you want to and lead me up to where you are now. Give me the good stuff. Don't give me the boring stuff. I want to know about Becky.
Okay.
It's just us. Nobody's listening, just us.
Yeah. So, grew up in a super small town. I can say that. 1,800 people. I lived in one of those towns that, you go on Good Morning America and they're like, how do you say this town in Wisconsin? And nobody knows how to say it. So from Waiwega, Wisconsin, again, Waiwega, not a lot of people there. I think population 1,800, holding steady.
Nice.
Kind of typical small town. Growing up, went to school at a University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. At that point in time, my goal was I just wanted to get far away from home, and it was 3 hours away from home. So kind of, I was one of those girls who was like, oh, I just want to get away where I don't know anybody, and that was 3 hours, not very far or exotic. But after graduating, I had an education degree, and I, thought I was going to be a teacher. At that point in time, every education job had like 700 applicants, so a lot different than what it is today. And thought, oh, I'm not, if I don't find a job, I'm going to just apply to an office somewhere to hold me over until I get my big teaching job. And I found myself at an insurance agency in Wisconsin, in the Milwaukee area, and then ended up, that kind of kickstarted my career in insurance. And I was there for 8 years doing all sorts of, everything from stapling policies or putting them in 3-ring binders. That's kind of what I always say. Like, my career started like punching holes in policies and separating it into tabs of, property, liability, and auto. And then, from there, just continued to grow my career and met a lot of awesome people along the way, and kind of jumped here and there from going to a carrier, to commercial lines underwriting. Then I got on the sales side, then found kind of excitement or curiosity in this digital space. So how do you make insurance smarter? And then job or two here or there to kind of curate my curiosity even more, and then found myself at Coterie.
Okay, so through all that, you mentioned you have 2 kids.
Yep.
And you have a fiance now. So
yeah, so I got married right out of college, pretty much,
okay.
And had my kids pretty much like 1, 2, right out of college. I think
Okay.
when I was 25. So I don't do the math, but I have a 15-year-old.
Okay.
And I have also a 12-year-old daughter. So 15-year-old daughter. And I would say about, a few years ago, went through, the divorce process, which
Got it. Okay.
and life altering.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So reconnected with my fiance.
Oh, there you go.
And he has two little ones. So he has
blended family situation potentially.
Yes. So learning all that too, but I've had to figure out a lot along the way, of just like how to balance everything and grieve that whole process as well. And it's been
yeah, that's one of the things that people don't understand that haven't been through a divorce and haven't been through a tragedy like that. They just think, oh, you're getting rid of your dead weight or your terrible ex-wife or ex-husband or spouse of whatever kind. But there's a lot of baggage that comes with that post-divorce, and trying to raise the kids, and you're trying to build your career because you can't afford to be a stay-at-home mom. You got to provide for the kids now, and you're young, and you're going through that. And I just wonder, because I know there's people listening to this right now, male or female, that are either going through that now or have been through that. What was some of the things that, you had to, I'm not guessing, I know for a fact, you had to grow up quick.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I was grown up already. I will give myself that credit.
Okay.
Just like some of your ideals that you have, right, of what a definition of your family was, or what things are supposed to look and feel like for your kids, that really changes a lot. Whether that's where you sit at a sporting event or your friend group, a lot of times your friends that you had or have were really ingrained in like the family unit, especially as your kids get a little bit older and everyone is, your friends or your kids' friends, parents, and things like that. And, you kind of have to just resort and reevaluate and take inventory of, what all that means, and what that means for your kids and what that means for you. And, it's sometimes even as simple as like, what time do I have to get up in the morning to make sure all these things happen? And I don't know if it sounds like you kind of have been through this process. So if you have any thoughts or, things that changed for you, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, no, for me, it's different for a mom and a dad. And, there's obvious reasons there. But for me, I had to learn a lot of skills I didn't have previously. And so for me, and I had to learn like simple things I should have already known probably, but like how to organize my priorities to figure out, because beforehand, and I joked with you before we hit record as we were talking about this, because I'm in a blended family right now. My son's 15, my daughter's 13, and my youngest is 10. So I'm right there with you in some of those ages. And I did the math and we're the same age. But so, sorry, but we're both super young. But anyhow, but yeah, like for me, I joked with you about, for 30 years, I had someone else wiping my ass for me and doing things for me and helping me out, whether it's my mom, my wife, whatever it might have been,
Yeah.
and then I had to learn all that on my own. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I've got a 5-month-old and a 5-year-old that are relying on me, to take care of them. And so I had to shift. I was such a selfish person just by nature. And I didn't realize that until the time. And so now I've got to realize, okay, now I've got to learn how to change a diaper, fix food, do all that kind of things. I had joint custody. So I had week on, week off. And, and I was trying to build my career and I was trying to do this. And I was in my 30s and I'm like, I'm at this like point in my career where it's like decision-making time and you're really
Yeah.
hitting that stride and you're in that place. And I'm like, whoa, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I experienced through that process too, like where you're just like, again, you're kind of like reevaluating, like, okay, my trajectory was this. Is that still what I can do? Like, is that still where I'm at? Can I still do those things at the time that I went through this process? I was basically a territory sales manager. And as you know, that means like car and driving.
Yeah.
And, you're especially, state of Wisconsin, you're 2 to 6 hours away at any given time and coming home, and kind of had to reevaluate if is that even feasible for me anymore? Do I need to take an in-house role of some sort, and just be closer to home, and like what does that mean for my career and my and bonus structures and all those things that go with that, and having to kind of say like, well, what can I do that best puts me and my kids in the best position? And like you mentioned, the priority thing, like I'm very, very like I don't want to be away. Is that time of my kids is like our time together, and so maximizing that to like the fullest potential is super high priority for me. So that means sometimes I have to say no.
And that's one of the hardest things. And sounds like we have a very similar mirrored career path there. I was also a territory manager for a company, and people have listened to the show. They know, they've probably seen me. I travel a lot now, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm at this pivotal part in my kid's life where I need to be home more. And so that's when I, got back into the agency side, left the, because I could stay home. I could build that there, get involved locally in the chambers and the local things going on and B&I and whatnot. And getting back into, being a producer and building, and that again was something I needed to do for a period of time in my career until my kids got to a place where now 15 and 12, they don't care if you're around anymore. At least mine, like, good to see you, Dad. I'm gonna go see my friends, or they're involved in basketball or cheerleading or soccer or whatever it might be. I always felt guilty for having that regret or having that guilt, not guilt, but I wish I would have, or I wish I could go, or those thoughts of like, seeing on Facebook everybody living out their best life. And I'm like, and then I'd feel bad. Does that make sense? I'd feel guilty for feeling bad. Anyway, hopefully you understand that.
Well, that's part of that process too, right? Is like, like, hey, I could have or used to be able to do these things and now I can't. And sometimes you can, right? We have options, we have choices, right? But some things, and whatever the situation is, like maybe the trajectory or the path or the time frame might be a little bit different, but
for me personally, one of the things I want to ask you about as a former like agency person or carrier or whatever, for me, being a parent is something that, has evolved for me as part of my identity and who I am and what I do. And it helped me to be a better salesperson, helped me to be a better marketing rep, helped me to be a better, as you said, you were in underwriting and you've done all these other things from wherever you are in your career. And I think once I figured that part out, it was helping me. And I'm a big relationship guy, whether you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in underwriting. I'm
Yeah.
a true believer in the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, what better tool than children really to teach you like how to have a relationship and develop empathy and like caring and unconditional grace, I would say, both for the child and for yourself, right? In that
Yeah.
process. Is there anything better than parenting to kind of teach you those things like emotional intelligence and
Yeah.
having conversations? Like, I think I'm at the stage, and I would imagine you are too, with your kids, where you're talking to them and you're realizing like they're like many yous, right? You're having these conversations and you can talk about like deeper things, and you're like, oh yeah, like this is exactly why we're doing what we're doing, and it's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I took my kids, or my oldest to his first college visit. And that was wild to me, to be able to sit and talk to him about his career path and what he wants to do and whatnot. And, him and I having some of those conversations on the drive. And, it was just a very sweet moment for me. And I'll try not to cry. So, but one of those things, though, like you said, those things that help you build those relationships. And right now, I think that those relationships are more important than ever in our life. And I think as we're talking to our clients, again, you say, what better way to teach us that, but also what, better way to relate, whether it's dogs or, pets or kids for that matter, being a parent, to be able to talk through some of those things and build that relationship pretty quickly, because everybody likes to talk about their kids or their pets or their spouse or their whatever. So I think whether you're personal lines or commercial lines, underwriter talking to your agent or vice versa, I think you can always use certain things like that, as a tool. I like that you said tool to help you build that rapport.
Right. And even, I would say that there's times too where like you can certainly relate to somebody who even, they don't have children or they don't have dogs, but like
Yeah.
that you learn and like the common experiences that we have just from, interacting with our like important people or important things in our lives, right? Like those lessons are always relatable, even if it's not that exact um yeah. I've had these long conversations with my kids about, what I do, and like, doesn't it seem like I'm really fulfilled and satisfied and it's so awesome? And I've literally had them say to me before, could you just say you work at McDonald's? Because people understand that.
Right.
And it's like, no, no, no. I mean, yes, if that really, helps you, sure. But
Right.
can't you just be like a doctor or a nurse or something?
Yeah.
That is. And so it's just funny to them. And, they're, um, it's interesting too, with, I think like COVID and the impacts that it's had just with like the, shelter in place. My kids have no interest in working on a computer or being like, they want to be on the go, or that's what they say now. I don't know if that'll change, but
Yeah.
this right here, being, at a desk or even having Zoom meetings to them seems like torture right now. So we'll see.
Yeah. I find that fascinating because I see some of that, but then I also see, I think that 2.5 years, whatever you want to call it, of COVID really hurt a lot of people in the sense that they don't know how to communicate with others. They don't know how to, and so they resort back to. I mean, I've got one of my kids just addicted to her phone and just wants to be on it all the time. And like she could be sitting with all of her friends at a sleepover, and they're all like right there in the same room texting each other. I'm like, why don't you put the phone on and talk to each other? Like it's just
I'm just thinking out loud here, but I wonder, because my daughter does the same thing at her sleepovers. They're on the phones, they're sending each other TikToks from across the
yeah,
room,
yeah.
whatever it is. I wonder if like that is like they've already established a relationship, so they don't think maybe that's how they nurture it. I'm not really sure, but
That's a good point. Yeah.
and on all of us, I think from time to time, right? Like we're
Yeah.
across the house, time for dinner, whatever.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've talked about this before too, but I've got literally 6 Alexas in my house. My kids have Alexas in their room, actually 7. And then we have them in our living room, our dining room, the kitchen, our bedroom. They're just everywhere. And I use it for an intercom system, but I also use it to play music throughout the house or whatever. If they're in a room and they want to know something, it's like, hey, Alexa, da da da. And, but I use that a lot. Like and my wife's like, you're so lazy, but I'll just be, in bed and I'll be like, all right, kids, time to get up. I'll just make an announcement on the Alexa to everybody in the house. Hey, kids, time to get up, instead of getting up and walking down the hallway, 15 steps. But I mean, it's like technology's made life so much easier in that way. But at the same time, it's interesting how technology works in that way and how much we've changed. You talk about some of your early jobs were, putting together policies and binders, and some people listening to this like, what are you talking about? And then there's some people like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or people that remember rating sheets, or people that remember some of the ways that used to be done.
Yeah.
And you had brought up, throughout your career, how you progressed through, and now you're with a technology company. And so to think about, and I'm in the same boat. So I find that interesting that, again, I think our careers have mirrored each other in some sort of way, but I wonder, how much further it can go. But I also think about, where I was 10 years ago and now where we are now and what that technology looks like, and the old school questions that people used to ask on Accord apps. And now Coterie has found a way to get rid of some of those.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a mid-roll ad, and I can't wait to jump into this because I want to talk to you about my good friends over at Canopy Connect, your one-click solution to getting those deck pages you need to quote your prospect. And not only are they doing the deck pages where you can get driver lists and you can get previous insurance information, and you can get all of that info. Now on the commercial side, you can get loss runs. And those are so crucial and so valuable. And it's hard to get those from people and whatnot. Now you can get them with a click of a link, and you can share that with your referral partners, with your clients. You can, build that within your website. You can put it in a signature of your email, whatever you want to do. Canopy Connect has been a game changer for several years now. They've been a part of my show since Jump Street, and I'm so proud. Go to usecanopy.com, hit that / go to Heath, and check out the discounts, check out the demo links, put that on a calendar, make sure you get that demo. It's super crucial. Guys, also, former guest. I love when this happens, when a former guest of the show becomes a sponsor because of you guys. They love the citizens and the feedback they got. Old School Marketing. Oh man, Rusty Dicus did a great job. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and check out Rusty Dicus. And he talks about using something as simple as direct mail marketing. Such an old school thing to do, but he's doing it in a new school way and introducing a new way of doing it. oldschoolmarketing.com. He's doing it in a drip method, so it's not just like bulk mailing in a neighborhood and then hoping to get a bunch of calls. The way he does it in a drip method, to where your phone is ringing on a consistent basis, and he's getting better results, and it's helping more and more insurance agents to do this in a phenomenal fashion. So go to oldschoolmarketing.com, check it out. Use the code TOWN10 and get your discount, and tell Rusty that I sent you, and you're going to be so happy you did. And once you see the pricing, you're like, oh my gosh, that's all? That's incredible. So take your marketing to the next level with Old School Marketing. Ask them about their payment plans. Ask them about the discounts. Old School Marketing. And that's OLDE, School Marketing. Guys, thank you. Let's get back to the show.
Back in my day,
back in our day. Yeah.
The earlier role that I had, I used to teach a class. I was at a carrier, and I taught a class of like top of the stack submissions, right? So what do you answer? What do you need to do to get your commercial line submission to the top of the stack? And we would literally go through, cover letter, Accord forms, which questions do you really need to pay attention to on the 125 and then the GL form, right? And so
yeah.
when I think about like and all those questions would be true too for small commercial, right? So there wasn't necessarily a distinguishment between, a BOP or a large middle market policy and what the accord form looked like per se. So now at Coterie, I've fast forward my life 10 years and think about like what we're asking, what we're not asking, and what we're trying to, pull from data and the information that we're getting. It's crazy and it's incredible. And, what's publicly available, what are some things that we can infer based on, the data models or predictive modeling, compared to sitting down and keying in, select all no, right? The accord forms. And then you say, oh, wait, but they do have a safety program, so I'm going to check that box. Yes, right. So just how far it's come with some of that, and like understanding, how fast we move through this process, the application process, and get to selling. We've really tried to make it simple for producers who don't necessarily need to know everything right about the submission. If they have the name and the address, we'll give you some pre-fill. We ask you to check it. So that means, look around, see if there's sprinklers, or that means guess estimating the square footage, how long have you been in business, those types of kind of key rating factors. But some of the other things are available with the data and like our modeling that goes around it. So trying to really pull some of the friction out of underwriting and submitting business, so you can just get to doing what you guys do, and that's build relationships and make money, right?
Yeah, no, and I think, I love that there's so much there, I could unpack there. But you talked about some of the older stuff that, people used to ask, some of the questions and some of the things y'all figured out. So I want to know from Becky, like I'll ask it this way. What was the biggest surprise, or one of the biggest surprises you found that you thought always pertained, and this is the information has to know to get the policy done? What is one of those things that you're like, oh, we don't necessarily have to have that?
Well, I think one of the things that we found is, especially in small commercial business, knowing exact like loss history isn't necessarily indicative of how profitable business will be. So, we ask our agents to kind of pre-underwrite. Obviously, we don't want them just to send us garbage, right? Or still ask those questions.
Right.
Or in hard copy loss runs, we're not collecting that information because there are enough factors in a policy, the application and the public data that we can pull that allows them not to have to go through that process, which I think is awesome because, again, in that like even small commercial space or that middle, business.
Yeah.
How often are loss runs, like everyone's shy to get them anyway. It triggers a shopping, event or anxiousness. A lot of times, whether it's agents or carriers, they're not super fast or motivated to pull those and send them. Small businesses don't always have like access to the software for like PDF creators and all the pieces that go into it. So we're just trying to take out some of that friction around it. And that's been traditionally a very hard, like, what are their losses? Anything over 5,000, we need to see a copy or a description or how it's mitigated. And we found just through other data points on this, again, it's really small commercial, micro commercial, that it's not as big of a factor as one would think.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because I would have thought the same thing. That, and I think a lot of underwriters, a lot of agents, they think, oh, crap, they've got a few losses or they got a little bit of hair on the account. We're done for.
Yeah.
But I also think the flip side of that I've seen to be true of like, there could be an account with 0 losses and it's a high risk, for a certain company or carrier. So I think, people read it, I just think, I love that you said that because I'd love the audience to be able to hear that. If you didn't hear that, rewind 45 seconds and listen to it again. The losses don't necessarily play as big a part as you think. I think that's
fascinating. And really, looking at frequency and severity and all those things. And maybe that'll change, right? Maybe that'll show us something different in 2 to 3 years or whatever time frame it is. But if you're pulling all the other data points, we do a lot of third-party data calls behind the scenes that would tell us, hey, there are other risk factors besides just losses. what kind of permits are they pulling? What kind of work are they doing? Or, what does the roof look like? All those things. Because they might not have had a roof loss, but
Yeah.
it could, right? Right. So
Right.
those are the things that we're trying to really fine tune and dig into.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm interested in that because I would have thought until recently, talking to you and getting to know Coterie a little bit better, that especially frequency or severity of losses would have made a bigger impact. And I know it does, but not necessarily in small and micro commercial, as you call it. And so I guess my natural next question would be to ask you, just from Coterie's standpoint or even Becky's standpoint, what is small commercial? Like, what's your definition of small commercial? Because some people have different definitions of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, our guidelines or our rules that we have in place, say anything under 10 million in revenue, or for non-contractors, I'll put a little asterisk by that, and then under 50 employees. But really, I would say our average policy premium that we're looking at is probably around $2,000, give or take. So really, like, thoughtful business for true, I would say, like micro commercial, small commercial business. I mean, we write certainly bigger policies, but we're also not looking to, insure a lot of big buildings or, the things that are probably more premium heavy or driving premium, or I would say casualty focused for the most part.
Yeah. And so with that being said, of that small commercial of, let's say, 5-10 grand and under, $2,000 there being your average, a lot of agencies are trying to figure out right now, like, how do I stop the bleeding on small commercial? Because that's what I hear a lot, whether I'm talking to agents on a podcast or coaching them or hearing just at conferences. It's like, how do I make money at small commercial? Because it could be profitable and they're easy and they're quick. And they're like, okay. And so there are people that have resorted to, and this is not a bad thing by any means, resorted to VAs or getting bots or, doing this or doing that and replacing, which, okay, or getting more processes. But what Coterie's done is found a way, to make that quicker by, like you just said, taking away some of those questions, taking away some keystrokes, I'm imagining. So what are some other ways that agents are using Coterie, or Coterie could be using Coterie to make money at small commercial?
So I guess I would say from like start to finish, Coterie's invested a lot of time and energy around being where agents want to write their business, whatever that is. So if you want to come to the Coterie portal and quote your business from start to finish, great. If you are funneling leads through a third-party system and you want to have those kind of instantly quoted with Coterie, that's like a little tongue twister.
Right.
You have that option if you want to go on like a small commercial rating platform, and you don't know if it's a fit for Coterie. We've invested our time and energy there to say, hey, wherever you want to quote your business, that's where we're going to be. So we spent some time there kind of taking that, like really just trying to be where our agents are. And then the second part of it, besides making that really awesome, I would say, underwriting, quoting, rating experience, customers can take a link and pay a credit card themselves. You're not having to pick up a check, right? So that, again, that whole purchase experience is super easy. Decks are emailed, certificates emailed to both the customer, so you're not having to like deliver or have your customer service person type those out. But then I think where we're really going, where we're spending a lot of more time and energy as well, is just driving the policyholder to have more self-service as well. So you still have an agent, right, to answer questions and to help you, right? But does your CSR or your producer really need to key a certificate for you?
Right.
Right. If literally it's a name and address and that's all they need, having more and more self-service options for customers is kind of where we're spending our time and energy. Making it as easy as possible for producers, agencies to not have to service that business, I think is really our next step in building out like the full experience. So having you guys be as hands-off as possible without necessarily having to deploy that to third parties. Or if you're using a VA, like our system should be easy enough that that's not a problem, right? Like that's kind of where we're looking to go.
So you're talking about even beyond, okay, yes, you're making the quoting process easier, but now you're looking at making the servicing process that much better.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. I haven't heard that yet. So not only helping, let's go back a second. So facts here, the time from start to finish. If I were to get a small bop, let's say a flower shop, something super easy, vanilla, whatever, I put it in, I've got somebody on the phone with me and they need a quote. How quick can I go from start to finish and bind it, issue it, pay for it, the whole nine?
Should be like less than 2 minutes.
Holy crap. Okay. And so it doesn't matter, because you don't have live underwriters that are doing this. It's all so it could be Friday at 4:30 and I'm trying to get out the door to go pick up the kids from practice or whatever it might be to start my weekend. And someone called and said, hey, I'm opening my shop over the weekend, or I just opened, I don't have my insurance. I don't know. I need it, which I got those calls a lot, or a contractor's like, hey, I got a job this Saturday. I forgot to get work comp. They won't take a ghost policy, whatever it is. I need to get this. I could do that in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Holy smokes. That's fantastic.
Something even more exciting or even better is
But wait, there's more.
There's more, yes. It sounds like an infomercial here.
Right.
So we just deployed this last month, but it's really allowing our agents to, we're calling it My Digital Agency. It's not to compete with any high tech white label solutions, but if you, Heath, have that floral shop on a Tuesday and they call you, and maybe you are, on a plane, right? or they send you an email, you can send them a link and they can quote themselves and you'll get all the credit. So they can put in their own name and address, check those things.
Wow.
If that's something that you're interested or you want to do, or if you want to drop that link into, your campaign for your marketing team, whatever it is, if you're targeting landscapers, we can take that link even a step further and just have all the landscaping classes pop up versus having this, full, pick any class you want from our list of 4,000, we can make it really narrow too. So we're trying to really put the capability of feeling like a digital agency in the hands of, kind of our more traditional agents. So they're just able to deploy that in a way that's productive and, again, takes the friction out. So again, a Saturday, you don't have time to call and find out what their payroll is. You can just say, hey, feel free to enter this information and I'll get back to you, or they'll get a bindable quote. So
yeah, I think that's awesome. And so I could see that working in so many ways of, if someone reaches out, you could either text them a link to that, or you could put it on your website as a tab they could click in, or there's so many ways that people could do it. Or your existing clients that, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, hey, I decided, I was going to buy this business over the weekend and I need to add this coverage, or I just started my own whatever, I'm thinking about it, like, hey, just go on our site, you can get a quote no matter whatever, and you can bind it. You don't have to talk to me. Some people, they're running so fast, they don't have time to stop and call and go through it. And I think back in our day, I thought it was super cool when someone could go on our website, put all their information in, and then it would be emailed to me or my staff, and then they would go through the quote process, and 3 or 4 days later, we could get them a quote. But now they can get their own damn quote.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And the great thing about that too, in that process, is we do, really try to say hey, Heath is your trusted advisor. It's your phone number. If you want to call and talk to him, or hey, I'm stuck. Is this a good limit? Or what is the normal GL limit, or whatever it is, you have that option. We're trying to really put the agent at the center to answer those questions and spend time, building out that relationship. Because again, they're coming to you because they're looking for that advice, or that, hey, if something goes wrong, I know Heath's going to handle it, or Heath's going to help me with it. Something happens.
Crazy. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so again, we sound like an infomercial for Coterie, but I think people need to know some of these things because, again, going back to making money at commercial, let's say, okay, so do me a favor. Let's take off the Coterie hat for a minute.
Yeah.
There's two just insurance professionals that love commercial insurance. I'm assuming you do. I love it. Um, what is some advice you could give to the agency owner or the CSR or the producer, whoever it is listening right now, however avenue you want to take to make that process, that much better for the client or for yourself?
Um,
I'll
all
make it
right.
real broad for you. You can't screw it up.
So I think, again, making the quoting process, like, to getting viable leads, you're not necessarily spending all your time chasing $500 accounts. Like, if you have a way to almost manufacture policies and
Yeah.
leads, great. But also prioritize them like they should be prioritized. Like, that's the biggest thing I can see, sometimes happening, both of, like, as an agent or a producer, or like as an underwriter. A lot of times, maybe as right, wrong, or indifferent as it sounds, like, everything is not an emergency, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is important to be quick, but also just realize that, like, hey, your commission on this is, you only can put in this much work to really make money or see that go. However, insurance is an annuity, right? And we're renewing it. And so that's really
Yeah.
where, like, if we can, you're not going to make money your first year, right? But if you can streamline your processes and all the things that go with it enough to that you have as little, they're not calling in and asking every question, or like they're able to just help themselves, or you're doing a great job educating them in
Yeah.
the beginning and how, like, to best work with you, right? Like, I think about our kids' schools, right? They have a drop-off line, and how to contact the teacher, and what's going to be most effective. Like, she's not going to respond to your text message, but she's going to respond in app. Like, educating your clients on the best way to work with you and, like, the things that they can do, I think, and almost training them, so that they're getting what they need, but they're renewing every year. I know that probably sounds like very complicated and a lot of work, but I just,
No.
like, really taking the time that first year to invest in that conversation or that information, and then hopefully year after year, and everyone's happy. Investing in automated marketing and touch points to nurture that business. Not putting your CSR that's making $75,000 on all the small commercial accounts is probably your best bet,
Yeah.
right? Is trying to automate as much for her, for him, as possible.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think you could hear that from any perspective in the industry and learn something from that advice. And I appreciate that. I think, going back to some of the things that you had said to unpack a little, I think, the more you can take off of some of those people, whether it's, again, using a virtual assistant or chat bots or robots or whatever you want to call it, or using something like Coterie, or just investing in technology to take some out the plate, I think it's going to be helpful. But I don't think it's for the purpose of replacing humans. I think it's for the purpose of making them more impactful in their job.
Right. And freeing them up to have those, like, really truly impactful, like,
moments.
Skill set, to the best, to the maximum capacity, having them really do, like, critical thinking and conversations, versus just processing.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think, and there's some people that just enjoy, processing and doing that thing, and that's one thing. But people that are just truly good at, building those relationships. Like, I was way better, at building relationships than I was as a salesperson. But I think that's what made me a decent salesperson. And I think there's a lot of account managers, CSRs, claims, whatever it might be, underwriters that are good at building those relationships. Let them do that, and that enhances their job, skills, so to speak. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think, I just think you can't teach that. You can teach underwriting. You can teach, closing skills or whatever, salesmanship, but you can't teach just that skill of building relationships. I just think that's innately in people, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a hot take.
a hot take. Yeah, I would agree. I think like there's some like natural, right, ability. Like a lot of people have natural curiosity, right?
Yeah.
And having those, asking those questions, or maybe the way that you ask questions, or that you bring up things, or even like being vulnerable, like to people, right, is oftentimes a great way to find commonality or build relationships. But I think there are things you can teach, like I would say, or at least model for people, right, to
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
help them, or be like, have you thought about approaching it like this, and teaching some things. Otherwise, we'd only have a very small portion of the country or world that was good at
No,
relationships.
that's true. But I do think, again, my hot take would be that I think people are born with that ability. And those that are born with that ability, I think, are more successful in those situations than people that are not. And that's my hot take. You can hate me to listen to this or not. I don't know. You and I talked about before, and I love hot takes. And so, a little controversy never hurts anything. I try not to be controversial, but it is fun. So, as we wrap up, I just looked up. I was like, holy smokes, it's already been a long time. And I told you, I try not to go too long, but if the conversation's going well, then here we go.
I mean, you gave me the challenge of trying to make it to an hour. So
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I did. And you've almost made it. But, since we're on this topic of hot takes, let's play a little game for a minute.
all right, love
Let's
it.
see what you think. And I love these things. And so I'm going to pull a random card. I haven't looked at. I was cheating earlier when we were playing, so I'm not going to cheat. All righty. Oh, here we go. It's a game called Hot Takes, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching on video, or if I release a clip. All right. I think I know the answer here, but if not, then I'm going to end this call right away. I'm just kidding. Sock, shoe, or sock, shoe, shoe.
I mean, my hot take is sock, shoe, shoe. But that's the way I do it. I wouldn't judge you if you did it another way, but that is my tried and true method. What about you?
No, I'm with you. You got to put on both your socks and then both your shoes. I don't like this whole sock, shoe. I just think, for me, but again, that's a hot take. My son does it both ways, like depending on the mood he's in. And I'm like, son, that's so weird. And then there's other times I'm like, oh, you finally get it, but it's just the way he is. All right. So we start off pretty easy here. Let's see here. All right. Hot take number 2 here. Money can buy you happiness. True happiness. I'm going to add that in there.
I think no, not
Okay.
true happiness, but I'm gonna have a caveat, because buts are, that's that we always operate in a gray space. Would say if money can solve a problem for you, let it. Like, there's no reason to be stubborn. Like, for instance, if you have enough money to hire a housekeeper, or someone like that, and that's a huge headache to you, like, let money solve that problem. That's how I feel. Like, if you
No, I love it.
money, like, let it solve a problem. And obviously, like, there's certain times in everyone's life where money certainly solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, I hear people say a lot in the industry or just in life of like, oh, it's not all about the money for me. And I think in some sort of capacity, again, a spinoff hot take is, I think it's always a little bit about the money. Otherwise everybody would work at, minimum wage jobs, or they wouldn't work at all. I just think that there's a level of it's always about the money a little bit. And people that say, don't just sell on price. Yeah, I understand that. Don't add value, go that direction. But price is a factor. It may not be the number one factor. You could rise above that factor, but it is a factor. If the expiring premium is $2,000 and Coterie quotes it, gives you a quote back at $5,000, you're probably not going to win.
Right. It needs to be like, somebody somewhere is going to be selling something else to close that gap. So whether it's your loss control services or your personality or whatever it is, right? I agree on that. The other thing I would say too, in life, right, is, when they say it's not about the money or whatever, like, I heard, and I don't even remember, it very well could have been like an Instagram reel or a TikTok, but said in like your job or your career, you should always be earning or learning. And if you're not doing one of those, it's probably not worth it. And so, like, I've thought a lot about that. Like, yeah, is this role or is this job, is it something I'm learning from? Is it something that's growth developing me, or
Yeah.
am I making money? Or at
No, I
least,
love that. No, I love that. And I think there's a lot to be said for that professionally and personally. But okay, let's do one or two more. Oh, this one's interesting. Okay. This kind of goes into our conversation a little bit earlier. Okay. The question or the hot take is, and this is their hot take, not mine, but I want to hear your thoughts. Trauma makes you more relatable.
probably, you know, I maybe there's some traumas that I don't relate to, but I would say overall, like, trauma and maybe healing that trauma is probably a good place to start. What about you? What's your hot take on
I definitely agree that it does. I've talked to people that, have had that fortunate life that they haven't been through some of the things that others have, and they talk about, there's certain things. And I won't give any examples because I don't want to take the hot take too far, but those people I just can't relate to. I just have a hard time with. I'm like, oh, that's great that you went through or your life has been whatever perfect is for them, or sounds like to me. I just can't relate to that. But someone like you and I have an instant connection, and I didn't know it until we talked. You've been through divorce. You and I have a shared interest or a shared thought process of, being single parents, getting remarried, blending a family, having a career during all of that, and the hurt and the heartache that goes with some of that, and the pain and the guilt. I could go on forever just on divorce and remarrying. But then also, if I'm talking to someone who's like, because I was in a nasty car wreck and spent a year in a wheelchair, if I'm talking to someone else who's been through something like that, I can relate to that. Or if I'm talking to someone who's lost their job due to whatever, someone can relate to that. I think if you've gone through trauma, you're gonna be able to connect with people, whether it's the exact same trauma or just in general, those feelings of pain and hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, maybe someone who lived that perfect life, so to speak, for me, their trauma could relate to somebody else. So I don't know. I think I just shot my own self in the foot on that one because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all have, right, a probably a common theme of just like being human, right? So whether that's like hurt feelings or
Yeah.
grieving, even someone with a perfect life, in quotation marks, right,
Yeah.
has lost somebody, right, or has felt
Yeah.
than, or has felt, time and time again that like things didn't go their way. So those are, I think, the experiences that I like to lean on, because not everyone is going to be a 40-year-old white female from Wisconsin that's, doing those things. So I think we can all relate to some of the human experiences, even if trauma isn't necessarily the top of their list, or maybe they're just not vulnerable enough to share it.
Right. Okay. So last one. Let's see here. All righty. The math I learned in school is completely useless in my day-to-day life now.
Just have a conversation with my child as he's like looking at, pre-calculus and calculus.
Yeah.
I would say algebra or advanced algebra is probably where I topped out, and needing it in the future. I have not had to do this. But that's not to say that like actuarial algorithms aren't using some of that in the insurance world.
Sure. Right.
But for me personally, not so much.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating because they changed math. For those of you raising kids right now, you understand what I'm talking about. If your kids are already in college and you listen to this, you probably don't get this, but they've changed math. 4,000 years or however long it's been of doing math the way we did math. And now, in the last however many years, I would say 5 or 10 years, they've changed it. And now you have to like do circles and, draw things and do the. It's really weird. I'm like, no, it's simple. You do this and this and it's done. And I show my kids, like, I can't do it that way. I have to show my new math and how you did it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so, but in that sense, no, the math I learned in high school doesn't. But I'm fascinated at how much I use math now in my day-to-day life. Simple math, not calculus. I don't think I even got to calculus. I think I'm that dummy that stopped at like algebra 2. But like I'll be in a store and I'll be figuring out tax. And, if it's like 30% off, and then there's the stores, they'll say additional 50% off the 30%. And I'm like doing the math in my head. It's a game for me because my wife would be like, all right, he do the math. And I'll do the math and we'll get to the register and I'm usually off by a few pennies. But if I get it, I'm like, hell yeah, I nailed it. And I'm like, oh, I'm still using my math. But again, it's simple math. It's not long division or anything, which is some people like long division, simple math, Heath. But anyway, um, this has been fun. You made it an hour. Damn it. I was hoping that you wouldn't. I'm just kidding. You did it.
Good.
You did it. No, it was so much fun. I enjoyed. I could go through this game with you forever. Oh, okay. We may have to sneak one more in because I had this thought, and it's stupid, but I want to know if the crowd what they think about it too. So, can you see this card?
Is a typo. Oh, cereal is a type of soup.
What do you think?
I think
about soup. What is soup? We're going to argue here. What is soup?
You're not cooking. Soup you have to like mix and cook, right? You're not just like dumping.
Okay. From that perspective, okay, but just the soup in general though, it's the same thing. It's a liquid, that has some stuff in it or whatever, and you eat it with a spoon in a bowl. Cereal, you pour in a liquid and you eat with a spoon. I don't know. That goes back to the other age old, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I mean, that one I could see a little bit more than
really.
Soup.
I would have to say a cereal is a soup and a hot dog is a sandwich. Because if you think about the definition of a sandwich, not the definition, but most people think of a sandwich as meat between two pieces of bread or meat between bread or a bun. That's what a hot dog is.
So if you say cereal is a soup, then you also have to say a hot fudge sundae is a soup because it's a liquid and a solid, like in a bowl, right? If the only criteria is putting it in a bowl, then I say a hot sundae is also a soup.
You're going real insurance black and white on me here, and I could go for that. That's interesting too. I like it. Okay, so I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you see this, if you listen to all of this, and you see me post this on LinkedIn, I want to hear your comments on that. I may have to get that on TikTok or something too, because that's interesting debate. But I definitely think that a hot dog is a sandwich. And my kids hate it. I bring this up about once a year, and my kids are like, God, Dad, let it go. And I'm like, guys, it's a sandwich, and they hate it.
So is a burger, like, do you consider that a sandwich, or is it just like a category of its own?
Technically it's a sandwich.
Okay.
Technically, in my book, that's my hot take. But that's very black and white because it's just a broad definition of what a sandwich is.
Is it? Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, does a sandwich mean the people who argue against it is because of like the angle in which you eat it? Like it's vertical instead of horizontal? Like, what's the argument?
I don't know. That's the thing I try to figure out. And my kids they've tried to give me every argument, every angle, and I could usually debunk every one of them. But I don't know. I just think it's fun to have that argument. But anyhow, all right. So now you might have to go for the record of the longest running person on here. But anyhow, I appreciate you, Becky. I appreciate Coterie. I love Coterie. I think Coterie's awesome. And I love what you guys are doing. And I love that we did get a little bit of an infomercial there. But take another minute and a half. Like, how do we find Coterie? How do you get involved? What is the process? Is it its own deal? Is it through an MGA or is it through this? Or can you just tell me all the things real quick?
Yeah. So Coterie itself is an MGA. We write on paper of 3 carriers. We write in all 50 states for BOP and GL, and then we also have a professional lines policy. If you are interested in becoming a producer or even getting connected on our API or digital side, which is the side I run with, I recommend reaching out and just going to coterieinsurance.com. Make sure you have the insurance piece in there. Otherwise, Coterie is also a diaper company name. But coterieinsurance.com. And then there's information about producer resources. You'll be connected with our amazing onboarding team. who will kind of walk you through everything Coterie and make sure we're a good fit together. But really, we're always interested in connecting with people who want to write small commercial insurance in a streamlined, easy fashion. So that's probably the easiest way. Otherwise, you're also free to, LinkedIn inbox me, and I'll get you connected to the right team as well.
And if people are getting into commercial raters and rating platforms, are you on any of those?
Yeah, we are almost, I would say most of them. We definitely have relationships with a lot of them. So awesome. If you're using one and you're interested in Coterie, contact your rep there and we'll get you connected. Otherwise, you're also able to, reach out to us too, and we'll kind of walk you through that process.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Becky. Thanks for hanging out. I had such a good time with you again. And if you didn't hear the one on Vertipore, go check out the Vertipore podcast and listen to Becky there too. She's a rock star. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun.
That was a blast. I had a good time with my friend Becky. We talked about all kinds of cool stuff. If you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, make sure that you subscribe. I don't ask that very often, but hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want to hear more about Coterie, go to the website CoterieInsurance.com, COTERIE, and check it out. And a lot of you that have seen my shirt, ask them about the shirt. It says drink beer, sell insurance. They also have drink margaritas, sell insurance. I think they have drink old fashions, maybe. They have something else. But anyway, and it's just a fun shirt. And I don't even drink beer, but I love the shirt. I think it's really fun. It's very conversational. So ask about that. Reach out to Becky if you want to on LinkedIn. She's a great follow. She talks about women in insurance, mentorship, parenting. She also talks about making commercial insurance easier. She's just a fantastic human being, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her. Check all that out. If you have an idea for a guest, let me know, Heath at Insurance Town Podcast, or hit me up on the socials. Subscribe, find me on socials, hit me on LinkedIn, hit me on all of them. My favorite, TikTok or Instagram, hit me there. Love you guys. Thank you again. And let's keep this show going. We're coming up into our 4th year, and I'm just so incredibly humbled. And also be on the lookout for episode number 200. Guys, can you believe it? You've been with me for 200 episodes. And if you have, please let me know. If you've listened to all 200 episodes or 198 or whatever we're at now, let me know. Send me a message. I want to send you some gear. I want to send you a prize or a present or a thank you from me. Email me. There's your CTA for those that like those. If you made it this far and you have a CTA and you want that, you want free stuff, Heath at InsuranceTownPodcast.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Let me know, hey, I've listened to every episode. Thanks again, guys. I look forward to hanging out with you again next week.